Welcome to The Blast Zone, the podcast where we dig up the bombs that shook Hollywood and try to find out why they went up in flames. This week, we're in the market for kind of a gangster pet. This is Keanu. Welcome to The Blast Zone.
Welcome to The Blast Zone.
We are not a podcast about bad movies. We are a podcast about movies that did badly.
That's right.
I am Jon Drake, in-house film critic of my Letterboxd account.
And I'm Ian Dukes. I'm a person with thoughts and feelings, and some of them are about movies.
Movies like Keanu, which we'll be talking about today. But before we get into that, a little bit of housekeeping right at the top. I wanted to move this to the front of the episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already.
Yes, please do.
You can rate us on Apple Podcasts. Spotify allows you to rate. You can leave comments, leave written reviews. All that helps people find the podcast. We appreciate it.
Really helps us.
You can also follow us on Twitter at Blast Zone Pod, Blue Sky, same Blast Zone Pod. Also, feel free to email us if you have any questions, comments, movie suggestions. We love to hear from you. It's blastzonepod@gmail.com.
Always appreciate a little note in the mail.
With that out of the way, Ian, how are you doing this week?
Well, don't you know it's time for Ian's Healthcare Corner? Today's topic is vaccines. It might still be blazing hot where you live. For me, it sure is. It's in the 90s all week. Still, it's time to think about upcoming cold and flu season. So this week I booked an appointment at CVS. They got the new flu shots in. They've got an updated 2025-26 COVID booster. Of course, the FDA is now trying to say if you're under 65, you can't just go get a COVID shot because you want it. But so far, it looks like CVS is letting me just say, give me the shot. And we'll see what happens when I show up there later this week.
Don't get me fucking started on this bullshit with the vaccine going on.
I know.
Can't say what I want to say, so I won't say anything at all.
It's very big of you. But yes, you and I both live in blue states, and likely if there is any maneuvering needed to work around FDA recommendations. I saw New Mexico already today put out a statewide health advisory that says, regardless of what the FDA says, you can get a shot. So
Good.
I expect a lot of that kind of stuff to happen in states like ours.
Yeah, until they try to go to the Supreme Court somehow to get them to take away the right of the states to do that.
There's going to be flak-jacketed men arresting my pharmacist as he tries to put a shot in my arm.
All around good times in the grand old US of A.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Just watching the news, very hopeful, but also not super hopeful.
It's hard to be.
I mean, I'm hopeful for one thing in particular, but I've learned not to let myself get too attached to the idea that anything good is ever going to happen again.
Yeah, it's best not to, unfortunately.
Aside from that, though, it's been pretty good. My kids have started school again.
Exciting time of year.
Yeah, I work from home, so the summertime's always a little tricky with trying to balance being there for them and doing activities and stuff with them and getting work done. So it's a little more laid back, a little more relaxed when they're in school, and I can spend more time at the gym as well, which I've been taking advantage of and enjoying.
Oh, yeah, it's time to get back on your gym horse.
They've only been in school for 2 days, but I made it to the gym both days and put in some good workouts. So I think I'm going to start feeling better physically soon. Like the end of the summer is always my least enjoyable physique phase because I've been out of the gym with any regularity for like 2-3 months.
It starts to take its toll. The body winds back down if it's not whipped into shape.
Yeah, not just a physical, but the mental toll it can take as well. Not getting exercise always has a negative impact on my mental health.
It's not good for you.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. They get on the bus super early, so I'm able to get to the gym and be home mostly by 9 a.m.
Wow, nice.
That's a great little perk. But enough about me. The viewers want to hear what we watched. The listeners want to hear what we watched since the last time we spoke to them. So did you happen to watch anything interesting or perhaps not?
I didn't watch anything interesting. And for that reason, I am breaking the mold today. After several years of doing this podcast, I am bringing a book to my show and tell. It's not a movie yet. It's not a TV show. It is called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, the 2004 debut novel by author Susanna Clarke. Amazing debut, incredibly mature debut. She wasn't a young woman when she did it, but still, it's an incredible first novel. The book is kind of like, what if Jane Austen or Charles Dickens wrote about wizards? It's this alternate history type of fantasy. It's set in England around 1800, so there's like action in it in terms of helping England battle Napoleon. But the central drama of the book is really intensely personal, and it comes out of the personality flaws of its characters, like you would have in a Jane Austen novel. It's about these characters, they rub up against each other in these frustrating ways, and their small little quirks lead to big consequential life decisions. It's very British. It comments on class, where both the gentlemen and the less privileged characters are striving for status and struggling to adhere to the rules of polite society whilst doing magic. And it's very much a novel type of story structure, which is why I think maybe it hasn't been adapted to a movie yet. It's like 800 pages in print. And the real joy of it is sticking through the long arc of the relationship. So over many years, the two main characters, their relationship evolves in these really complex and satisfying ways. But that would be something really hard to capture in 2 hours. But so if you're down to hang with a drama of manners and social conventions, then I recommend this book. But I can also say it doesn't disappoint. Eventually, if you hang with it, it delivers on the magical genre payoff stuff with a really cool world with its magic spells and fairies and all that stuff.
Nice. It's always a treat to stumble upon an exciting new author. I hope Susanna Clarke has more up her sleeve and many more novels to come. Does she have other books out already, or is this new enough where it's her only one?
No, this is from 2004.
Oh,
and
okay.
she is not prolific. So she started writing it in 93, put out her first book in 2004, put out her second and only other novel in 2020, a book called Piranesi, which I actually read a couple of years ago. Is also excellent, totally different, super high concept. I can't even tell you about the plot of that book because it's so weird that you wouldn't want to spoil anything, but I also highly recommend Piranesi. But yeah, she's been writing for 30 years and she's completed 2 books and she's like 65. Like, I hope we get another book out of her while she's around because I really like her writing.
Oh yeah, she won the Hugo Award for Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
Yeah.
I wonder what she does in her spare time.
They say she was like an editor, at least for the first 10 years of her writing career. She was editing cookbooks as a day job while she worked on the first novel.
Oh, and her partner is a science fiction author I've also heard of, Colin Greenland.
Oh, okay. I don't know him.
Yeah, he won the Arthur C. Clarke Award in 1991. He's won several British science fiction awards.
That's a power couple.
The Daybreak series and the Plenty series are his big calling cards as an author.
Cool.
So yeah, maybe if you run out of Susanna Clarke, you can pick up some of his stuff. Maybe they have similar sensibilities.
Go over to the hubby, see what he's up to.
Yeah. I did watch a movie because I am not shirking my responsibilities as a podcaster. Shame, Ian.
You're much more responsible at this than I am.
I didn't watch a ton of new movies. I've been watching a lot of shows. Twisted Metal is back with our boy Mitch from Doughboys having a larger role. They've expanded upon his involvement, and that's always a welcome thing. But I just find that show very fun and entertaining. But I wanted to talk about a neo-noir movie I watched from this year. It got a very limited theatrical release and came and went without much fanfare. It's from a director called Nick Rowland, and it's called She Rides Shotgun. It stars Taron Egerton as a recently released ex-con who, through circumstances, has to essentially kidnap his daughter and take her on the run with him. It's very grim. It's one of those kind of not a lot of levity to the going-ons. It takes itself pretty seriously, but it's also pretty well done. It's not the most original story in the world, but it's extremely well acted, particularly by the daughter, who is supposed to be 10 in the movie. I'm not sure how old the actress is, but I think probably right around there. Anna Sophia Hegger gives a really great performance. Very powerful stuff for a child actor, which is always the barrier to any kind of lone wolf and cub type story.
Yeah.
If a kid actor isn't believable, it can really throw the whole vibe of the movie off, but she nails it and really keeps you engaged. And Taron Egerton, man, I'm weirdly like I don't even particularly like him as an actor, but like I watched all of that show Smoke, which I had some not super kind words for based on the first few episodes. I thought Egerton was giving a really bad performance in the first couple episodes, but then I realized that that's his character. And as the show kind of unravels its central mystery, you understand why he was giving the type of performance he was. And then I came to really respect his performance in it.
Oh, cool.
And then he's the star of this, obviously. He's playing a very hard-edged American ex-con, got roped into running with a gang in prison for protection and wants out now that he's out of prison, but they don't think that's amenable to them. And our boy John Carroll Lynch is a big bad in it.
Oh, cool.
Arthur Lee Allen from Zodiac.
The Zodiac Killer himself.
The Zodiac Killer himself.
Allegedly.
But then when I finished it up, I was like, oh yeah, Blackbird. I like Paul Walter Hauser, and I never watched that show Blackbird that was on Apple TV. I should check that out. I fucking forgot that it stars Taron Egerton. So the last 3 things I've watched are all starring Taron Egerton projects for some reason. Like I said, not one of my favorite actors or anything. It just happened. The chips fell this way.
Did you ever watch his TSA movie?
No, maybe I'll have to though. If I might as well, complete the cycle.
That's what I'm thinking. You might want to put a bow on that.
Hoping next time we record, I'll be able to have gotten to the theater and see Caught Stealing, so I can give an update on that. I'm not really an Aronofsky guy, but I like what I've seen in the movie. Love Austin Butler, Matt Smith, Zoe Kravitz. Got a great cast. It's a crime movie set in Queens.
You gotta see
Be Still
that.
My Heart.
I know you're big into crime, and also you're from Queens, right? So it's not just your love of crime.
Correct. Yeah, I love crime and Queens, and I love crime in Queens especially. Loved it so much I committed several when I lived there. So
yes, this is really taking you back.
it's a little stroll down memory lane, and I was just there to take my son to his first Mets game, so that was exciting.
Oh, yes. No crimes involved when the kid's on the scene.
None that I'm willing to speak to on the air. Anywho, Keanu. It's time to get into the nitty gritty here, Ian. I think it's safe to say we were both pretty large Key and Peele fans, right? We both were
for sure
very into their sketch show. Was that your first exposure to them, or were you familiar with them from like Mad TV or any other projects they'd done?
I think I probably recognized the face when the sketch show started getting attention. Like, these guys seem familiar. Were they both on Mad TV?
They were both on at the same time, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that's how they met or if they were already a writing duo when they joined, like the way a lot of SNL writers join as a group. But they worked together a lot on Mad TV, and I guess when it wrapped up, they wanted to do their own thing.
Yeah, what a great thing they put together in that show. I was such a big fan of it. By the time this movie came out, the show had just gone off the air, right?
Yeah, it was, I think the show went off the air in 2015. This is 2016, so they must have just started working on this as soon as the show got canceled. Or if they, I don't know if they got canceled or if they wanted to end it. I can't remember what the circumstances were.
Yeah, I think the way it went down was that they were both ready to move on, which is funny. Like, oh, we love each other, but we're ready to explore different things. We're going to go do a movie together. And I guess that was a little bit of an ill-fated decision. I had already maybe started to move on from them. And then I heard about this movie and some combination of the early word of mouth, which was not good, and the title, which kind of just throws you off no matter how you try to make sense of it. I hesitated to see it. And I guess the word on the street was don't bother. And I never ended up watching it until now.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the title before we even get into the making of the movie, because I think it did hamstring this movie and its ceiling for how much money it could make. Because Key and Peele were already, I wouldn't call them a niche show, but they weren't Chappelle Show level of famous. They had a dedicated audience and they had a number of sketches that kind of broke out of their ordinary fandom and hit the mainstream. But those, as the show went on, I think got fewer and far between. Then the movie comes out. The trailer explains why it's called Keanu, because it's the cat's name. But like, if you see a poster for this movie, Key and Peele with guns and a cat, and it's called Keanu, you have no idea why or how that ties into anything. Doesn't really sell you on the movie at all.
Yeah, and even if you very quickly learn the role the name Keanu means in the context of the movie, still it makes you stop and think about it. And then you're thinking about that, you're talking about that instead of the movie, instead of, hey, Key and Peele, my guys are in a movie and I love them and they're so funny. Let's go see what they get up to in this movie.
With the cutest cat that's probably ever been put on film, too. You had all the makings of a hit.
And people are instead like scratching their heads and arguing about the title. It's like, God, what an unforced error to make people focus on that.
So before we get further into the making of the movie, I just wanted to ask if you had a favorite Key and Peele sketch that you wanted to tell the listeners about.
The one that really grabs me and lives on in my heart is Continental Breakfast.
Classic.
Which is just, Key is totally a straight man in that. He doesn't have a punchline at all. It's just Jordan Peele being the weirdest dude, just getting excited as he checks into a hotel and they tell him there's a Continental Breakfast. And he's like, well, Continental, you say? And the tour de force of performance he puts on as a solo performance when he goes to eat the breakfast and he's overcome with ecstasy.
I'll have what I'm having.
Each stupid thing that he eats, he gets more and more excited. It's absolutely wonderful. And that's what I love about Jordan Peele is how fucking weird he actually seems. Like he just inhabits that character so easily and so perfectly.
Yeah. My favorite sketch is also a very Peele-centric sketch that I don't know if you hadn't seen before I sent it to you or you just didn't remember it, but...
I didn't remember it, but it's a great one.
The Gremlins 2 sketch, of course, where Peele plays a Hollywood sequel doctor who comes in to consult on the making of Gremlins 2. But his way of consulting is just to let everyone in the room come up with their own gremlin. He's very clear that like, we're just brainstorming. None of this is necessarily going to end up in the movie. We just want to get some ideas flowing. But then he's immediately like, every one of these is automatically in the movie. No takes his backsies. And he's got this insane energy.
Yes.
And the best part of the sketch is, as crazy as all these gremlin creations sound, everything in this sketch actually ended up in the movie Gremlins 2, which I actually went back and rewatched to make sure that they weren't fucking with me.
Was it all in there?
3 years ago. It was all in there.
That's
this
crazy.
Is all 100% in the movie.
Yeah, that real world tie-in, if you know that or if you understand it as the sketch is unfolding, it makes it 10 times funnier because it's like, oh my God, that stupid thing he just said. It's literally in the movie.
And we'll put both these sketches in the show notes as well if people want to check them out.
Definitely worth going back and watching those.
But the fact that we both also picked a Peele-centric sketch speaks to the fact that we both prefer Peele over Key. Not to say that Key doesn't have great moments in this movie and many of the sketches that were focused on him, but like they do have different sensibilities about comedy. So it really does draw a line in the sand about, not that you have to pick one, but I do think most people will end up preferring one to the other more often than not.
They have very different vibes, which is great, which is what made them such a powerful comedy team. They physically look really different and their styles are so different. So they're just really fun together. It's made for a very classic team. And, you know, you talked about the viral sketches that made them big. Substitute Teacher. You couldn't get people to stop saying Aaron for a stretch of time there.
And that was a great use of Key as a comic presence. Like that kind of nailed what makes him so funny.
Yes, absolute classic performance in that. So we're not taking anything away away from Key. But yeah, there's something weird about Peele in this.
There's a darkness to him.
There is. And he wrote this movie and he put a lot of himself into it. And as we'll go along and talk about what's in it, we might come up with a theory that maybe he was too full of himself in his first movie and took it easy on himself and maybe should have pushed himself harder. I don't know. That's one way to think about it.
Yeah, we'll have to debate that because there's something off at the center of this movie. And I'm still not sure I've been able to put my finger on why it doesn't work for me. It's not that there weren't moments I enjoyed it, but I think I only laughed out loud once. I grinned a lot. I was like, oh, yeah. It's not like I was having a bad time, but that's not what I was hoping for with a Key and Peele movie.
No, you expect a certain level from them. It's hard. It's really hard when you have a show with that many talented people working that hard over years to collect a set of highlights that are really all-timers in terms of American television sketch comedy, and then put your one movie that you came up with in a relatively short span up against all that stuff. It's pretty hard to compete with yourself.
All right, you want me to get into the making of the movie and how it came to happen?
For sure. Let's hear how this thing happened.
All right. Keanu was a strange little experiment, a $15 million action comedy starring two sketch comics built around the idea that the most dangerous gangsters in Los Angeles would risk life and limb over a kitten in a do-rag.
Damn, it feels good to be a pet owner.
It had all the makings of a cult favorite, but not enough to convince audiences to actually show up in the theater. The movie was directed by Atencio, who had handled every episode of Key and Peele. This was his first real feature, and he leaned into the duo's mix of absurdity and action. The script came from Jordan Peele and Alex Rubin, one of the writers on Key and Peele and Community. At the time, Peele was still best known for sketch comedy, not as the horror auteur he would become just a year later with Get Out. The film was officially announced by New Line Cinema in 2014.
They would have announced it twice if they could.
Early reports assumed it was a parody of John Wick, which had just come out, but in reality the two projects were developed independently of each other. Still, the overlap was too good to ignore. Eventually, Keanu Reeves himself came on board for a surreal cameo, voicing the titular kitten in a dream sequence. Reeves had initially turned it down, but changed his mind after his sister saw the trailer and convinced him to say yes.
You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the kitten hole goes.
Filming took place in New Orleans in the summer of 2015. The production used 7 tabby kittens to portray Keanu, training them with treats, baby food, and laser pointers. The cats were dressed in tiny costumes and spent their downtime being doted on by cast and crew. Every single one was adopted when filming wrapped, including one taken home by Tiffany Haddish, who named hers Catatonic.
Sometimes girls don't trip.
The movie was released in April 2016, opening against Mother's Day and Ratchet & Clank. It pulled in $9.5 million its opening weekend, finishing in 3rd place behind The Jungle Book and The Huntsman: Winter's War. This wasn't a bad start, but in week 2 it cratered, dropping over 65% as Captain America: Civil War blew everything else out of the water. By the end of its run, it had grossed just $20.7 million worldwide, far short of what it needed to turn a profit. Critics were kind, with a 78% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, praising the chemistry between Key and Peele and the movie's willingness to fully commit to its ridiculous premise. But audiences were less interested, and the film quietly faded from theaters. For Jordan Peele, it was the end of his comedy era.
They said more Key and Peele. He said, nope, not us. Time to get out.
Within a year, he would redefine his career, an arguably modern horror, with Get Out. Keanu remains a quirky side project in his filmography, remembered as much for the cats as the comedy.
Yeah, we got to say, as you pointed out there, the cat at the heart of this film is the one thing that always rings true, especially for you and I. We are avowed cat lovers.
We love cats.
And so, like you said, the premise of this movie is that everyone who meets this cat, most of whom are the most hardened, gritty gangsters and drug runners you've ever seen, absolutely fall in love with it, and they're willing to kill and die to keep it. And so it's really a struggle for the love of this little creature, which that part I can't fault the movie for. That rings true to me.
But it is crazy to me that Keanu Reeves didn't even sign on for his cameo until the trailer was out, because so much of this movie hinges on Keanu Reeves voicing Keanu. If he didn't do that voice, the movie kind of doesn't work.
Really? I felt like that was just tacked on as like an added punchline. I mean, what is Keanu the cat, whether voiced by him or someone else?
I guess the name just doesn't really have a joke to it if you don't have that scene. Like, it's never really dwelled on. Everyone calls him something different. So it's just Rel that calls him Keanu. But there's no joke to the name without the actual cameo.
I see what you mean. Yeah, it's to some degree a payoff for why'd you name the cat in the movie Keanu? Why'd you name the movie after the cat? And why did you drag us through all that? Oh, there's a payoff because we actually got Keanu Reeves. That I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
For that reason, it helps. But I feel like they're digging themselves out of a hole that they didn't know they were burying themselves in.
Yeah.
Like they went in not expecting that. And I don't want to spend half this episode on the title of the movie, but it's such a self-inflicted thing. Like even if you want to call the cat Keanu, as you pointed out to me when we talked about this offline, just call the movie something else. And it'll be a funny little quirk within the movie, but it won't be the big distraction that it became.
Not to mention, they released this movie 1 week before Captain America Civil War comes out, which is bananas because this is an action comedy. And really, what are the MCU movies, if not action comedies with massive budgets and stars attached to them, right? I think ever since the first Iron Man movie, they've been a very delicate balance of action and comedy, and sometimes a little too far to one side or the other.
Sure.
So you're going to cannibalize your audience a lot by releasing this right before one of the biggest superhero movies of all time.
Yeah, they probably thought that stylistically they're so different, thematically they're so different that they could get away with it, but it really is the same people that are checking out both.
Because I saw Captain America Civil War in theaters, and I was a big Key and Peele fan, so that tells me I had time to see one movie in theaters around that time, and Keanu was not the one I chose.
No.
All right, anything else we wanted to get into before we start talking about the plot, or are we ready to go?
Let's dive into this thing and follow that cat. A pair of spooky assassins called the Allentown brothers descend on the headquarters of local drug trafficker King Diaz and slaughter all the gangsters inside. The only creature to escape alive is Diaz's beloved kitten, a cute gray tabby he named Iglesias. Meanwhile, across town, a pot-smoking movie buff named Rel, played by Jordan Peele, calls up his best friend and cousin, a tight-laced minivan-driving dad named Clarence, played by Keegan-Michael Key. On the phone, Rel is in the depths of despair over a breakup, but by the time Clarence arrives at his house to console his buddy, Rel has turned a corner. That's because the refugee kitten we met earlier randomly showed up at Rel's door. Rel has adopted the cat, named him Keanu, and forgotten all about his ex. 2 weeks later, when Clarence's wife and daughter go on a camping trip, he rejoins his cousin Rel for a guy's weekend together. After a fun outing at the movies, the boys return home to a shocking discovery. Rel's apartment has been ransacked, and Keanu is gone. Rel talks to his neighbor, a quirky drug dealer named Hulka, played by Will Forte, who points the finger at a gang called the 17th Street Blips and their leader Cheddar. So Clarence and Rel go down to the Blips strip club, where they're confronted by a gang lieutenant named High C, played by Tiffany Haddish. In order to be taken seriously, the guys introduce themselves with gangster nicknames, Tectonic and Shark Tank, and they affect what you might call a coarse, street-style dialect. In that mode, they bluster their way through a meeting with Cheddar, played by Method Man. Cheddar has Rel's kitten, who he's renamed New Jack. As they talk, Cheddar accidentally comes to believe that the guys are in fact the mysterious and deadly Allentown brothers, and so he agrees to give them back the cat if they'll accompany High C and her crew on the first delivery of a frighteningly powerful new drug called Holy Shit.
All right, I got qualms.
Sure, let's hear the qualms.
I don't like when a movie about drug dealers centers around a fictional drug. It's always been kind of an issue of mine. 21 Jump Street did it, where they had this hot new drug. I can't remember what it was called right now. Right. I don't know. It's just there's enough drugs, real ones, to center a movie on. And it all makes it feel like lower stakes. It's like, I don't really care about Holy Shit, but if these guys were heroin dealers, maybe I'd take them more seriously.
I mean, I can see why they do it because it keeps them from coming across like they're making light of the actual pain that real drugs do to people and communities. So it's like, yeah, Holy Shit is not real. It could never exist. And so you're not like making light of addiction and drug crime, but it makes it inevitably silly.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to play the game, you got to pay the entry fee. If you're going to make a movie about drug dealers, you got to include some drugs. That comes with the territory. Even as a comedy, I don't think you can completely ignore the kind of urban blight it's brought upon communities.
It's not very grounded in that sense, but then neither are like all the gangsters, a combination of Bloods and Crips called the Blips, and they're treated very light and silly.
That is a funny name. I do like the Blips as the people who got kicked out of the Bloods and Crips. I thought that was good stuff.
It's all silly. That's the thing. None of this is critically bad. Any of the decisions about the plot points or the setup of the movie. The movie's just kind of flat. The comedy's not as funny as it should be, especially when you come in with high expectations.
Yeah, it's kind of death by a thousand cuts where it's just a lot of little things that add up into a movie that ultimately doesn't really work.
They're trying to make scenes work, to make jokes work. And like you said, you just kind of smile at a lot of them and only a few laughs.
And there's some moments where they completely undermine themselves. Like, I thought it was really funny to name the strip club where the Blips hang out as Hot Party Vixens. Because if you spend enough time there and they show the sign outside enough, eventually you're going to be like, HPV. But instead, right when they're walking into it for the first time, Rel goes, Hot Party Vixens, HPV. That's unfortunate. It's like, you just took all the wind out of that joke. Yes. You know? You didn't let people kind of discover it for themselves.
Yeah. The laugh happens when they say the name and then you see the sign. That's the punchline. And then he explains the punchline, which you're right. It's like talking past the sale.
But we open, I'm jumping around a little bit, but we do open with a sequence right out of our two favorite Irish brothers from Boston. Boston. We get a real Boondock Saints kind of sequence.
That's true.
With the Allentown brothers, who are, I was kind of surprised when I was reading online that some people were shocked this was Key and Peele. I was like, it's pretty obviously them.
And we're so used to them seeing dressed up in costumes for their sketches. They're like, it's almost giving you the feel like, oh, is this a sketch movie? Are they going to be different characters in every scene? And they're not. It's a big part of the overarching premise. But I feel like, yeah, they're right in their element. And that scene, Peter Atencio, who directed all of the sketch show, one thing I always noticed about the show was like he was really good at mimicking cinematic styles. He had all the pop genre moves down. So when they were doing a police procedural TV show, it would look and feel like that. When they were doing a horror movie, it would look and feel like a horror movie. So he continues to be pretty good at that and portray each of these things in a convincing pop style.
Yeah, there's some nice use of slow-mo in this opening sequence, some nice fight choreography, a little bit of like gun fu, which was like John Woo's kind of gunfighting technique, how to make it look cinematic on screen. Mm-hmm. And all that works. There's a lot of slow motion shots of Keanu running while puffs of cocaine like explode behind him as the bullets hit the bricks. The cinematography like only gets flatter from there though as the movie goes on. This is probably the most interestingly shot sequence.
I think you're right. It flattens out to where some of the later scenes felt under-stylized, where there was a lot going on, and it really would have helped if the camera was more dynamic or something about the way they were filmed was more dynamic. They become fairly flat along with the jokes.
So what did you think about Peele as Rel? He wrote this movie. He clearly put a lot of himself into this character, but did it ring true for you?
Yeah. Like we said, we're fans of his. It's interesting to see him play such a normal guy kind of character. You're like, oh, is that really Jordan Peele? I did read that he is or was a big pot smoker, and so his character Rel is. And obviously he was a movie buff. He was obsessing about movies on his own and trying to become a director the whole time. So it does feel like a glimpse into Peele's personal life. The only thing I would say about the characters, I guess it's maybe not big enough. They reserve that for the fact that the character has to put on a character that he plays for half the movie. And so I think they were purposely trying to make the normal version of Rel kind of flat and boring.
But then you had a good point here, which is that Keegan-Michael Key as the character Clarence actually gets a real arc. And I would argue maybe that kind of justifies he should have been the main character to me.
Yeah, they kind of divvied it up, which I think that's not a bad way to tell a two-hander movie. Is like Clarence has this arc where it's established right away. He's uptight. His wife is telling him, you're too much into pleasing people and doing what you're supposed to do, and you don't know how to loosen up and be yourself. So it's established right away, oh, this movie is going to be about him loosening up and finding himself, which it is. It's pretty successful at telling that story. And they didn't set up anything for Peele's Rel, except he's heartbroken, and he's double heartbroken when he loses his cat. So it's all about getting a cat, and then the bonus get for him is getting a girlfriend. But those are just physical objectives. Those are not growth and change stories.
It does feel like this is Key's wheelhouse as an actor, is this kind of uptight, slightly insecure, nervous guy who through circumstances has to learn to live. Like, I feel like he's played this character almost note for note before.
Totally. It feels very comfortable for him. And it makes for the biggest possible shock, as he's the first one to transform into his alter ego, Shark Tank. And when he changes his voice and changes his whole attitude, that is funny because it's such a big switch.
Yes, and he's very good at those big moments. He's a very theatrical actor. He's broad in a way that Peele is not. So having him be the one to turn around and start screaming at gang members in an aggressive way was the smart move.
Yeah.
That was one of the moments I really liked in the first act.
Yeah.
And we do get some callbacks, some fan service for fans of the show. Do you remember what type of movie they saw?
They saw Liam Neeson's movie.
Liam Neeson's. That's a big callback to the Bellhops, right? Or the Valet Parkers?
The Valet Parkers, which actually was one of my least favorite sketches, but it was one of the most viral of their sketches.
And just probably for the reason that they call him Liam Neeson's had a lot to do with why the sketch was so beloved, because it's just very funny. Getting something a little bit wrong is just always funny. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's just a weird, dumb bit. And then in the quote unquote real life of our guys, we find that they do that in a non-hyped way. They just casually call Liam Neeson's movies. Did you catch what the name of the movie was on the marquee of the Sonorama Dome?
No.
It's called Substitute Teacher.
All right.
There's a bunch of little sketch callbacks, but...
Wasn't that a Tom Berenger movie from like the 80s or the early 90s? Or just The Substitute, maybe?
Yes, I think you're right.
I used to watch that on basic cable on Saturday mornings.
It's one of those. But yeah, that scene where they're in the car after the movie, that's where they get to really do what they're good at, which is that friendly banter, the comedy timing of them just having this stupid fight about whose bullies were bigger as a kid, Rel's New York bullies or Clarence's Detroit bullies. And they just have this no way back and forth, guaranteed, no way, guaranteed. Can't imitate what they did there, but it's really good. I was like, not laughing out loud, but I was like, oh, this feels warm and fuzzy and funny. Now I like these characters and it's really fun to see them be friends.
And that is actually where they're both from. Jordan Peele's from New York and Keegan-Michael Key is from Detroit.
I knew he was a Detroit guy. Remember that?
Well, yeah, he had a bit of an arc on Detroiters, which love to cast actors that were originally from Detroit in small roles.
It's a real hometown show.
God, I miss Detroiters so much. Just one of the most joyous viewing experiences you can have, sitting down and watching a few episodes of Detroiters.
So funny and so pure of heart in that way. It's just a show that makes you feel good.
Weirdly, I was like, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I was watching Twisted Metal and I had that thought that Twisted Metal is super violent and also like lowbrow, but in a smart way. But there's also just like a joy at the heart of it that I feel like makes it so much easier to watch a lot of it.
Yeah, that's something special when your attitude as a filmmaker or a storyteller can come through and like just give people good vibes.
That's it. It's just good vibes. Yeah, that was just maybe not a scene that does a ton to advance the plot, but explains these guys in a way that you need to stick with them as they go on this almost like an after hours style descent into hell.
Exactly. I would say that this movie is well paced through this first section. It's fast paced. Like they set up Rel's absolute obsession for this cat with very little, like a really fast scene. They jump right into it. It's 2 weeks later and he's made a whole movie calendar with photos of the cat. And that's all you need to see. Like they didn't drag that out at all. So it's moving. And then as we'll get to when we get to Act 2, the middle of the movie just comes to a screeching halt.
Just drags. But before we move on to the middle section, two performances I wanted to talk about real quick was Will Forte as the drug dealer who gets them into this mess, known as Hulka. He's got a braided beard, a lot of old hip hop on vinyl. He's building a motorcycle. There's a lot of stuff going on with this character. He's got a sneaker wall in his mom's house that I guess they're throwing a lot of little idiosyncrasies at you with this guy. But I don't know. It didn't feel like a good use of Will Forte to me. Like I thought he was maybe a little out of his wheelhouse on this one.
Yeah, I think it's a tough character to pull off because the character, like you said, doesn't have one game that he plays or one like solid hook to his quirky premise. He's just this kind of weird guy. He's got all this African-American cultural symbolism that he surrounds himself with. But Will Forte and the writers were smart enough not to make him totally be doing this wannabe black thing, which would have been offensive and weird. So he can't really lean into that. You feel Forte, who's so charming and such a fun comedy actor, struggling to find something to grab onto that'll reliably make his lines funny. And it's just kind of like weird. It's like, there's just a weird guy in this scene and I don't know what he's doing for me.
And I think Will Forte specifically thrives in like the specificity of comedy. His characters are always weird in very specific and interesting ways. Think of the potato chip sketch from SNL, which is, I think Will Forte said it's his favorite sketch he's ever made with Jason Sudeikis, where he counts the potato chips on his desk before he leaves the room and then he counts them again when he comes back. And Sudeikis has eaten one of them. But he's just like a very uppity Southern. I think he works for NASA in the sketch, but he's like this Texas guy. But he gives him like this very interesting voice and mannerisms. He likes to live inside of a character to that degree. And Hulk just doesn't have enough going on while simultaneously having too much going on.
Yeah, he's got a lot of work to do from the script point of view, is that he's like this exposition machine that caused Keanu to get kidnapped in the first place. But it's just like obligatory stuff he's got to get out. Well, also, I worked with this gang and here's the guy and here's where he lives. And here's some jokes in the meantime that we're trying to stack on to make the scene funny. Like, by the way, I'm living in my mom's apartment, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm crying when you're smashing my De La Soul albums. But none of that, it doesn't really gel into anything.
The other actor I wanted to talk about is a gentleman who I had the pleasure of seeing in concert less than 2 months ago, the METHOD man. And he's playing a gang leader named Cheddar. Funny name, but clearly a reference to his much reviled character on The Wire, who was Cheese.
Right. I had to go back and watch some Cheese clips.
I mean, he's great because as Cheese, he's so natural. Because Cheese is he's a gangster and a scumbag, but he's also kind of a goofball, but in a very true to life way. Whereas Cheddar has to be the kind of stone-faced, scary boss man character.
Right.
And I think he pulls it off pretty well. I think he's a solid actor. He's proven to be a pretty reliable hand, especially at these type of characters.
Yes. Better than you would expect from the average hip-hop star turned actor, especially in this role, which is in a pretty cheesy, thinly grounded movie. He has to deliver some somewhat challenging lines to make these scenes work, to maintain being this intimidating gang boss, but he loves the cat. He has to sell that he believes that these two absolute dorks are actually the vicious and frightening Allentown brothers killer. Like, he has to sell all this stuff, and he does. He does a very serviceable job to make the story move ahead.
I know when he got the job on The Wire, he had to audition. He wasn't like handpicked, and David Simon was pretty against using rappers as actors in the show.
Oh, okay.
He used Fredro Starr as a character, mostly in the first season, named Bird. And then he used Method Man as Cheese, who was a character that kind of stood the test of time and was there for the entire run after he appeared in the second season. But like being a famous rapper was actually more of a barrier to him getting the role than a help. But he took the acting part seriously and impressed them enough where they were like, took a chance. And yeah, I think he's actually he takes the craft seriously. He's not just trying to coast off his name recognition.
Would you say he's a method actor?
Oh boy. No, I don't think so. All right, we're ready to move on to the second act?
Yeah, let's hear what happens next.
Back at Rel's place, the real Allentown brothers interrogate Hulka in their search to get the kitten back for themselves. Meanwhile, the guys, now going by Shark Tank and Tectonic, introduce themselves and get to know Heisey and her crew. Together, they make their first delivery of the drug Holy Shit to none other than actress Anna Faris. Clarence hangs back in the minivan with the gangsters, teaching them the value of communication skills and the joys of listening to George Michael. Meanwhile, Rel and Heisey are dealing with a psychotic Anna Faris, who escalates a game of truth or dare into a fatal shootout. Heisey kills Anna and her two friends and leaves with the money. Later, as the crew relaxes, Clarence tells Rel he's really enjoying himself. Meanwhile, Rel is in a state of horrified shock at the violence he's witnessed. Nevertheless, he starts to feel an attraction forming with Heisey. While celebrating back at the strip club, Clarence accidentally smokes some holy shit and goes into a psychedelic trip where he dances with George Michael. He also receives words of wisdom from Keanu the kitten, who speaks with the voice of actor Keanu Reeves. When Clarence comes around, he gets a bad phone call from his wife, Hannah. Their friend's husband, Spencer, made a pass at Hannah on their camping trip. Then there's more bad news as Cheddar goes back on his deal. He won't give Keanu back to the guys unless they agree to do another drug exchange tomorrow. So they snatch the cat and sneak out a side door. Just as they think they've escaped, everything goes from bad to worst as Shark Tank and Tectonic are kidnapped by the real Allentown brothers. It's a lot.
It is a lot, but most of it's 3 big scenes or sequences, right? The first one is the crew introductions, which is where I first started to feel like, oh, they're really slowing this movie down.
Yes.
This is a scene that's got a sketch type of a premise. What if you took the idea of a corporate, go around the room, introduce yourself, exercise, and put it in a inner city gang context? But then it's not that many good punchlines and they take a while at it.
The premise is good. I agree. Having these hardened criminals do the whole icebreaker scenario is a good bit, but I couldn't help but think this is twice as long as it should be. There's a whole sequence about backflips that are like folded into this thing. And
that's the one punchline that worked for me because they gave you something surprising out of left field to prove themselves. They go, oh, did the Allentown brothers really do a backflip while shooting their guns? And they're kind of on the spot. And Clarence just goes for it. He goes and runs up to the wall and he lands it. And that's funny because it's kind of shocking.
In the third act, Rel does get his backflip moment as well.
He does one in the heat of battle that he didn't even know he was going to try it.
Like, I did like their explanation too, that, only one of us backflips per day. Today is Clarence, like today's Shark Tank's day, and my day will be tomorrow, because it's such a bad explanation.
They found a funny way out of that scene with that as the big kicker, but like the rest of the time you're like, oh no, there's 2 or 3 more gang members and they're each going to have to say their 2 things. And nobody's 2 things yet have been very funny. So I'm sitting here knowing that I'm going to be walked through this whole thing. And it's like, you start to lose patience.
One of my biggest problems with the movie is for 2 comedians who have some of their most beloved sketches are about like the hilarity of the names they can come up with, whether by mispronunciation or with the East-West Bowl kind of mocking professional athlete names or college athlete names in this case. They've come up with some all-time hilarious names. And I don't think Shark Tank and Tectonic are funny names. And they're constantly used as kind of like a stand-in for a joke.
Yeah.
And it just didn't even get a smirk out of me. Not once.
Yeah. I would say one of them did. I would say Shark Tank got a half a smirk out of me. But I totally know what you're saying. It's in line with the big complaint about the movie is that the jokes are a little bit limp. They should have been written and rewritten till every scene was packed with funny, laugh out loud jokes, but they're not. They're all just some basic ideas to get you through the scene. And I agree. Shark Tank and Tectonic feel like the first names they threw out and they just went with them. Shark Tank, at least, it starts with the scary idea of a shark. Oh, I'm comparing myself to a shark. And then he says Shark Tank and you're like, oh, it's actually a dumb, nerdy thing. So it has some built-in irony and setup and twist to it. Tectonic is, I don't know, it just sounds like a generic nickname.
Especially when you find out Tiffany Haddish named her kitten Catatonic. It's like, why didn't Rel go with Catatonic?
Yeah.
He's in this for a cat. That would be like a nice little layered thing. Not that it's particularly funny, but at least it's thematically appropriate.
That's a good point. It says something about his state of mind when he says it. Is there any connection between Rel and Tectonic? He didn't pick like a movie reference. He didn't pick a pot smoking reference. He didn't pick a cat reference. All these things that could have at least been meaningful, like, aha, that's what he says his name is, but we know why he picked it. This one, no clue.
Yeah, he's got a Heat poster in his apartment. I'm fairly sure he could have been Wayne Grow or something. Like, there's ways you could have made it a feature and not a detriment to the character. These names are lame enough that they felt like they took away from my enjoyment of the scenes where they're trying to pretend to be gangsters. Which brings us to one of my least favorite sequences in a movie in a while, the Anna Faris scene.
Yeah, this is really where the movie, I was fighting myself not to turn it off. It's like, oh man, this is dragging. It's a sketch where it's dragged out way too long. But to start with, the premise never actually lands. Like for guys who are working at the pinnacle of sketch comedy, where it's so important to quickly establish what is the game of the sketch, make sure it's very clear, but yet it's also grounded. They've got one of these like bad sketch ideas where it's like, oh, you know how Anna Faris sometimes has a weird energy? Well, that's true in real life. And now she's somehow Alfred Molina's Boogie Nights character.
She really
she's
is.
She's like a rich madman that's bullying these tough gangsters. Like she's literally playing herself, in case anyone didn't know this. She's playing Anna Faris, the actress.
It was funny that they buried that part of it till a little later. Like you didn't know if she was playing a character, but eventually Rel is just like, I loved you in the house, bunny. Which is, that's a funny way to reveal that she's playing herself.
Yeah, that part was fun. But then they like pushed it to this thing where the premise doesn't work. Why is she so scary and intimidating just because she's loud or seems manic?
Yeah. The fact that two hardened gangsters, which we know Rel isn't, but he's pretending to be.
Right.
And also, I guess High C isn't, but she's pretending to be. This movie's got a lot of twists, too many perhaps. Like they would let themselves be threatened and bullied by this 90-pound white girl is pretty unbelievable.
Like she won't give them the money for the drugs. That's not something that...
That's why you brought guns.
Exactly. And she intimidates them into waiting for her to be ready to give them the money. Then they play truth or dare. And then she dares one of them to shoot the other one and kill them. Like, why would they even play truth or dare, let alone take it to that level, just because she has dark circles around her eyes and she's acting crazy?
Also, the whole premise of this doesn't work for me for a big reason. And I think most audiences were first exposed to Anna Faris, who I think is great and very funny most of the time, in Scary Movie, which they make a joke about Scary Movie as well in this scene. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And in Scary Movie, she's playing a fucking whack job. She literally gets stuck to the ceiling by the enormity of her boyfriend's cum shot in one scene.
Okay.
So like,
didn't remember that.
The reason these kinds of cameos where actors play themselves or like a heightened version of themselves, think of Neil Patrick Harris and Harold and Kumar or Michael Cera and This Is the End. Like those are the kind of viral moments where actors were playing themselves as larger than life maniacs, because they're both, I guess Neil Patrick Harris kind of has a reputation for being a dick now. But at the time, everybody was like, he's just like a very normal guy and very soft-spoken. And Michael Cera was always playing these very soft-spoken, nerdy characters. So to see them act out this way was a juxtaposition to what we thought about them for so long. Whereas Anna Faris has always been like a maniac comedian doing like gross out physical comedy and never afraid to go over the top. So it's not a surprise to see her acting this way. So it doesn't really add anything to the comedy of the moment.
And it's just confusing. It's like, that's who we're supposed to believe she is in real life. And all of that, there's a version of that works. It's just that they pushed that premise too far. They dragged it out over 15 minutes. There's basically two scenes running in parallel. There's Clarence in the van teaching the boys about George Michael, and there's Anna in the house with Rel and High C. And they're both just drawn out. Like Clarence teaches the guys like 3 George Michael songs, right? It's not like, there's a joke where it's like, hey, I listen to this nerdy music, but it's actually cool. And he gets the tough gangsters into George Michael. He does that 3 times in a row. The joke is done. It's so worn out by the time you come back to him the 3rd time.
This whole sequence, I think, is like 17 minutes, and it's absolutely insane that it is that long.
It's grueling. It really spoils a lot of the goodwill you might have had for the movie when you sit through that.
Both times I watched this movie for the podcast, I took a break during this part of the movie.
It's just
I typically watch them in 2 sittings, and this is where I stopped both times because I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, it really grinds the movie to a halt. But what did we think about Tiffany Haddish as High C? She gets a lot of focus in this section of the movie.
She has her charms, and she's proved herself in a bunch of different roles. This is not a deep role or a challenging role, but she works as the tough lieutenant to Cheddar. And then like the romance worked for me. She's charming and very attractive. So like when you start to see that Rel is forming some kind of little bond and there's maybe the potential for romance, that's fun and exciting too. So like overall, the movie is definitely better for having had her in it because she makes those things work.
We have covered her before. Do you remember when?
I'm trying to think.
It was a real stinker, and she was particularly bad in it.
Oh, I can remember one of us brought the card counter to show and tell.
I think I did, yeah. Which I also thought she wasn't great in that. But no, she was in The Kitchen with Melissa McCarthy. Okay. She was pretty bad in The Kitchen. I think she's pretty good here. She's at ease for sure. She's not really stepping outside of her comfort zone as an actor, but that leads to a very natural performance. So I had no issues with it. And yeah, I agree with everything you said. She makes sense as both the love interest and this hard-edged enforcer for the gang. I found the final twist involving her character kind of nonsensical when you try to examine it a little too much, but that's fine. We'll get to that when we get there. But before we move on to the third and final act of this movie, we got to talk about Clarence smoking some holy shit. Another scene I really liked was when Rel starts smoking weed to try to corner Clarence into doing drugs.
Yes.
And he goes, I usually like to smoke with a pipe. And some guy just turns around and goes, you said a pipe? Hands it to him immediately. I was like, that's pretty funny. And then he's basically smoking what we think is crack, but it turns out to be holy shit, which I guess is worse in this world, but feels a lot less serious when you realize it's not actually crack. And smoking crack in a movie can be very funny if you've seen The Wolf of Wall Street. And then he goes on this trip, and it starts with him inside his own little George Michael music video. That was fine.
Yeah, he gets to show some of his sketch comedy chops. It's a total fantasy scene. He's mostly black and white except for his blue jeans, just like George Michael. He's doing the dances with him. And it's silly, but it's nice to have a break from the solid stretch of obligatory gang action and just totally change the scenery for a minute.
And then the second part of his trip is where the namesake of this movie makes his appearance.
Yes.
We get to speak to the cat Keanu, who happens to be voiced by Keanu Reeves. And he has the one line in this movie that made me laugh out loud, which is, it's me, Keanu, meow. His fake meow is so monotone and like poorly attempted that it becomes a hilarious joke to me. Maybe we could put a clip of it in the show if there's time.
Oh, yeah. We'll look for that.
It's me, Keanu. Meow.
I would say that part is good too, but it's like, do all holy shit trips have two distinct sections that are like right. unrelated to each other just so that you can get two different joke bits going? It's like, seems like you should have picked one.
I'm not very familiar with hallucinogenic trips. I haven't done a lot of that type of drug, but like, I feel like it all blends into one continuous experience and not these two very distinct trips.
It feels like, oh, we got two good ideas for little sketches in the middle of this. Let's shoot them both and see what works. And they go, oh, they're both fun. Let's put them both in.
But then the whole scene with Keanu really doesn't amount to anything. He's basically just speaking in Bill and Ted platitudes about you can't be excellent to others unless you're excellent to yourself first.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess that's something. But
he's just there to give Keanu Reeves something to say.
Which, that was hilarious. And Keanu Reeves always, like, I find him a very funny choice as a voice actor because he's got such a monotone voice. It really worked for me. And actually, I realized that the three of them reunited on Toy Story 4.
Oh, neat.
Keanu Reeves plays Evel Knievel, a toy Evel Knievel in that, and Key and Peele play these stuffed animals that they win at the carnival.
That's cool. I didn't even know.
Yeah, it was nice to see Key and Peele reunite after Peele was already a famous horror movie director.
I have to watch that one. I haven't seen that.
I geek out whenever I see them like interacting with each other now. I'm like, oh, they're still friends.
It's cute.
Like Key was very excited when Peele won his Oscar.
Oh, yeah.
All right. You ready to get on to the final chapter?
Yeah, here we go. Bringing it home. Rel and Clarence awake to find themselves tied to chairs in a creepy abandoned warehouse. As the Allentown brothers prepare to torture and kill them, they get a little help from Keanu and manage to free themselves and turn the tables, killing the spooky assassins with their own guns. As they stumble outside, they run into Cheddar and the Blips, who take them to the mansion of a drug kingpin to make the big exchange that Cheddar talked about. The drug lord is Bacon Diaz, played by Luis Guzman, cousin to the kitten's original owner. Diaz wants his cousin's cat back and says it's non-negotiable, so the two gangs go to war. In the fierce shootout that ensues, Clarence is thrilled to see the Blips use the communication skills he mentored them on. Diaz grabs the cat and tries to flee the mansion, but Rel, despite having been shot in the leg, jumps into the driver's seat of Diaz's car and peels away. Clarence jumps into a little import hot rod and chases after. With Diaz shooting his pistol furiously from the back seat, they go on a wild chase, eventually crashing on the lawn of Clarence's house. Then Cheddar and the Blips arrive and shoot Diaz dead. Then, in a surprise twist, High C reveals she's really LAPD cop Trina Parker and tries to arrest Cheddar, but Cheddar draws a gun on her and she has to shoot him dead. In an added development, Clarence's wife returns from her camping trip and Clarence punches the inappropriate dad Spencer in the face. Despite still having to do 6 months in prison for the crimes they committed, Clarence has rekindled his marriage with Hannah, and Rel has found a new love in Trina Parker, who brings Keanu to visit him in jail.
I feel like it'd be a pretty big conflict of interests for Trina and Rel to date after all of this.
It's definitely like a comedy logic wrap up at the end. She's like, well, I've got to arrest you, but I'll testify on your behalf at the trial and I'll be your girlfriend. And it's like, okay, it's comedy rules.
I did love at the end, though, her final line is that Keanu has a rare disease. He'll have to be a kitten forever.
Can you explain that to me? Because I'm like, does that mean he's dying?
No, he's like never going to grow. He's like a dwarf cat.
Okay.
There are some cats that just never grow beyond kittens. Like not that small. They grow to a point that's bigger than that, but then they stop and they're very small.
Right.
So I think they're just saying that he has like dwarfism, essentially. You thought she was saying he's only going to be a kitten forever because he's going to die before he gets to grow up.
Because he's going to die young. Like, he has a rare disease. He's going to be a kitten forever because he's going to be dead within a week. Like, isn't that like a possible reading of someone phrasing it that way as a euphemism?
Phrasing it that way, yes. But in the context of this movie, I can't imagine that's where they would decide to go with it.
No, that would be super weird, especially because the movie literally closes on that line. But
it's supposed to be a triumphant moment for us where we know he's going to look like that forever because he's so cute.
It just seems like a weird, confusing thing to end on for me. But I'm confused a lot of the time. So it might have been just me in this case.
This ending is throwing twist after twist at you. It's quite a bit. The Allentown brothers, I found them to be a bit of an interruption whenever they appeared in the movie. There's already a lot of moving pieces and plot going on. I'm like, oh, these fucking guys again? Like, they appear so infrequently that when they do, it's kind of like, oh yeah, these guys.
Yeah, that part of the screenwriting to me feels fairly sophisticated, to have that running background plot of someone chasing you that you only see once in a while, looming in the background, and then coming to a head at the end when they're the reason that Clarence and Rel almost die. It's maybe overstuffed. It feels very Hollywood these days to do an action comedy and to require it to have so many layers and so many subplots and so many twists at the end, like we're talking about. The second act of the film felt stretched out, where there was like too little stretched over a long thing.
As Bilbo Baggins would say, like butter scraped over too much bread.
It was in the second act. And then in the third act, it was all obligatory. It was like, we set up 10 things and we've got to bring them all home to roost and unwind all these threads. And so there wasn't much fun in the end.
Yeah, it's just a sequence of knocking down plot points one after another.
It was just like checking things off on a board, and it was all high intensity. So there's a lot of screaming and crashing and shooting, a lot of shooting.
Yeah.
There's like a whole commando style shootout in the drug dealer's mansion, but none of it felt very inspired or fun. It was just like, okay, we got to clean up the mess that we made, and it just takes a lot of work.
Speaking of the shooting, that brings me to a interesting thought about this movie, which is, was it wise for two sketch comedians who had a show on cable? There was a lot of limits to what they could and could not show and say, to make a rated R movie mostly centered around a cute cat. Is that a good hook for rated R audiences? Look how cute this cat is. Like, it worked for me and you who like rated R movies, but are we in the minority there? Would this have had a bit higher ceiling as a PG-13?
Yeah, it feels confused. I'm not sure why they went for the R rating. There's naked boobs in 2 or maybe 3 different strip club scenes, and they feel really gratuitous because they're not really integrated in the story. It's just, hey, it's an R-rated movie. We can show boobs in the background of a scene. So it's like, you could have easily left that out. And then is there a lot of cursing?
There's a lot of cursing in this movie. At first, I was like, why is this movie rated R? Is it for language? I was like, I don't remember that much bad language. And then I watched it again and I was like, oh, there's like nonstop cursing in this movie.
Okay.
But also, it's very violent. But like, I would say not more violent than lots of PG-13 movies I've seen. There's blood when bullets hit people, which is kind of a rated R thing now, but not to the degree where I think they could have gotten away with it if it was just violence.
Thinking of it that way, I guess they didn't feel like they could compromise the comedy, because a lot of the comedy is about the language that the characters use, is these characters imitating the language of another subculture that they don't belong to. And so if you neutered all that, if you took all the edge out of that, you'd really cheese up a lot of the comedy of the movie.
Or cheddar up.
Or cheddar it up. And then they're like, we're already cursing and saying the N-word 1,000 times. Let's just show some boobs.
Yeah, it did feel tacked on and like just a why not? Another sequence that just goes a little past its expiration date is the whole driving sequence, the chase scene, where Bacon's in the car with Rel and Clarence is following them. It goes on for quite a bit. And then what is accomplished at the end? They're at Clarence's house, but that's where like the real shootout and fight happens. So we spent 10 minutes in the car just to get to the location where they could actually settle it.
It's just for Hollywood expectations, right? So we're making a big action movie. You must deliver an action scene of X length with X amount of crashes and zany action. But yeah, it shows overall perhaps a lack of movie editing savvy from these first-time feature filmmakers.
It feels like they're trying to pay off the storyline that like Rel doesn't have a driver's license, which is not like, there's lots of people that don't have driver's license. I don't feel like that was as quirky a thing as they thought it was.
Yeah, it heightened the car chase, but the car chase had no other purpose. So it's, yes, you've heightened this car chase, but I still don't really care that you had it.
And then by the time Hannah and Spencer pull up, I'm like, oh yeah, this is another storyline I got to wrap up now. Of course, they wrap it up pretty quickly with Clarence just punching Spencer in the face, which love Rob Hubel. He seems very punchable.
Yes.
He's very good at playing that kind of character.
Yeah. Neil Long as Hannah, Rob Hubel as Spencer. Great little additions to the film in the small parts that they play. And yeah, maybe that's the whole reason. That's the only solid reason to have the car chase, is to get all the characters to Clarence's front doorstep so that Hannah and Spencer can show up and Clarence can wrap up his character arc by punching the guy who hit on his wife and getting her horny, which is fun.
It's so weird that they had to drive like several hours together in the car after he made a pass at her that she turned down. That's an underrated, awkward situation to be in, I guess, right?
Yeah. In a different sort of rom-com, straight comedy, we would have spent more time with that whole set of characters, but we only have to imagine what went down.
I wish we spent more time with Nia Long in her prison outfit. Ayuga. Sorry. Nia Long's was a big childhood crush of mine.
Nia Long's looking Auga. So is Tiffany Haddish. It's an attractive cast.
Luis Guzman, not so much, but I think Method Man is getting handsomer as he ages, which is crazy because he was always like a handsome dude. But you see him now, he's gotten like very into the gym and like eating right.
Interesting.
Yeah, he looks great. He's over 50 now, I think. What else do we want to talk about from this? Why is Anna Faris still? That's another thing too. Like all the people from Anna Faris's little party are also undercover cops, and she's also alive because she was working with the cops. It's like, this is too much wrap up exposition.
I couldn't even totally make sense of what that whole undercover operation was supposed to be doing.
I think they were trying to suss out if they were the real Allentown brothers, is the way I read it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like she was actually investigating them at that point, but then she didn't believe that they were really them.
That whole thing was set up to try to get Rel to do something. Or sorry, Tectonic. I got hung up for a minute. I'm like, wait, is it Tectronic? The name doesn't even stick
That's
in
how
my mind.
memorable it is. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I can't find the logic behind it. But yeah, and for comedy reasons, they had to be like, oh, no, guys, no one was actually killed in this movie, except I guess Cheddar was.
And Bacon Diaz.
Yes.
Well, lots of people died in this movie, but none that we were particularly fond of.
Cheddar killed Bacon. There was a whole hamburger crime axis going on there.
It's true. Luis Guzman, always happy to see him in a role, but yeah, he's not asked to do much in this movie.
He's doing his usual thing, but it's not inspired. It's pretty flat, unfortunately, because I do find him very appealing, but it's just going through the motions here.
Yeah, he's great. Had a decent sized role in one of my favorite movies of all time, Out of Sight. And
yes.
People forget he was also in Narcos, and he was pretty evil in that. I feel like even his villainous characters always have a degree of comedy to them because he seems like a naturally funny guy. So in Narcos, to see him play like a true villain with no redeeming qualities was pretty stark.
That's cool. And speaking of which, during this movie, I was like, I want to see Keegan-Michael Key play a real villain with no redeeming qualities. That would be fun.
Yeah, he's super funny, but like the sensibilities of his acting style seem better suited to drama to me.
Yeah.
Like in a long form project. And in a sketch comedy, he works perfectly, but I really would like to see him. And he has started to venture into some dramatic roles. I'll talk about them. But before we get to that, was there anything else from this section we had to wrap up, or are we about done?
I think we untwisted all the twists. We can probably move on to the credits.
We should also mention that the Allentown brothers are actually alive. Is the post-credit scene.
I wouldn't have known except for Amazon Prime Video, which gives you hints on screen when you move your mouse, and it said watch to the end because there's a little tiny stinger.
I actually appreciate that. I wish more things did that. So, as mentioned, directed by Pete Atencio, directed all of Key and Peele. Keanu was his first major motion picture. He directed a movie that like doesn't even have any info on IMDb before this, but so I assume you can't find it. He would go on to direct 3 episodes of the Will Forte comedy, The Last Man on Earth, which I was very fond of. He directed all 6 episodes of Jean-Claude Van Johnson, which was a movie about Jean-Claude Van Damme playing himself, which was a popular thing around like the mid-10s.
Yeah.
He directed several episodes of the Scott Foley action comedy, Whiskey Cavalier. He directed an episode of Adam Polly comedy, Making History. He directed an episode in season 2 of the 2019 Twilight Zone reboot that Peele was kind of the driving force behind.
Okay.
And a season 2 episode of The After Party, which is a show I'm fond of because we love Sam Richardson.
I was into that on season 1 at least.
Yeah, I never caught up with season 2, but I should. Here's where it gets dicey. He would next direct the 2023 Burt Kreischer biopic, The Machine.
Yikes.
I don't think I've ever encountered a stand-up comedian less funny with less comic sensibility than Burt Kreischer.
Really?
That motherfucker does nothing for me. Absolutely nothing. I could not stand him. Sorry. After that, his next movie he tells one story. It's the same fucking story for 25 years now. He built his whole career on it.
Really?
Russian guys were impressed that I could drink a lot. He tells this one story on stage for like 20 years, and he makes a fucking movie about it. It bombed, but I don't even think I can stomach watching it to cover it.
That would be really nice if we don't have to stomach it.
Yeah, let's just treat ourselves to skipping that one. Sorry, I get riled up when I think about Burt Kreischer for some reason. He might be a nice guy. I don't know. His next movie will be the Ryan Reynolds animated film Animal Friends. Can't tell you anything else about it, but certainly got some star power behind it with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds might even be a nice guy too. We don't know.
I'm starting to doubt it.
There's hints that he's
not.
A weirdo.
Yeah.
We're just dropping unfounded rumors here. Don't listen to us.
I feel like he also turned Rob from Always Sunny into a weirdo. Like when they became very close, Rob just stopped acting like himself.
True. People are accusing him of corrupting Rob Mack.
The fact that he changed his name to Rob Mack against his wife and children's wishes is not a great look. So yeah, we're just hating on everybody here. This is the haters corner. That's what we're going to call this section.
Yeah.
Fucking shit on everybody. As I mentioned, it was written by Jordan Peele and with Alex Rubens, who was a writer on Key and Peele, Community, Rick and Morty, The Twilight Zone, and is currently a writer and executive producer for the Dan Harmon animated show Crapopolis.
Great resume.
Lots of comedy stars in there. Peele has been a writer and performer. Peele had been a writer and performer on Mad TV from 2003 to 2008. Then he starred in Children's Hospital for a little bit before joining Key and Peele. Did you ever watch Children's Hospital?
No, I'm vaguely aware of it, but I never tried to watch it, I don't think.
I think you'd like it. It was very silly, very low stakes comedy. But if you like the Paul Scheer, Rob Hubel, that whole gang of comedians, it will definitely tickle that itch for you.
I could see myself warming to that.
And then he's appeared in Kroll Show. Him and Key reunited for season 1 of Fargo, which was really cool. They played FBI agents that were working the case together.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they had a very funny rapport. They're pretty minor characters in the grand scheme of the season, but they do play a big role. And it was just really cool to see them in something a little more dramatic, even though their role was mostly comedic. He's been on Bob's Burgers, Life in Pieces, which he had a very funny part in, and is an underrated kind of comedy show from the 10s.
Okay.
I really like that show. Me and my wife used to watch it together. That makes it sound like we're divorced or something. We're not. We just don't watch it together anymore because it's not on the air anymore. Wet Hot American Summer, First Day of Camp, the show. And I didn't even realize this. I watched the first 2 seasons of Big Mouth, and he plays the ghost of Duke Ellington, which is weirdly a very important character on that show.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
He's probably best known now as one of the great horror directors of his generation. He's done Get Out, Us, and Nope, all being financial hits and critical hits. He also co-wrote the 2021 remake of Candyman.
Oh, nice. I didn't realize that.
Which was directed by Nia DaCosta, I believe. And you might think he wrote or directed the upcoming Marlon Wayans sports horror movie, Him, because all of the marketing strongly indicates that he is the driving creative force behind it. But no, he's just like the producer of it.
Oh, okay.
It does look pretty good, though, and pretty fucked up. And I could see why people might think it's a Jordan Peele movie.
Yeah, I hope he made a careful choice in putting his name on something like that, and that it proves worthy of even having the false inference attached to it.
I'm side note, but I am excited about the kind of renaissance of Marlon Wayans that's been going on. I think he's a really talented dramatic actor. Everyone's known him as a comedian for so long, but I did not like the Aretha Franklin biopic, Respect, but I thought he was really good in it.
Oh, okay.
He's also just another, talking about like people aging into being just incredibly handsome. Marlon Wayans is like an absolute babe at his advanced age. So, see, we can objectify all people.
Sure.
How old is Marlon Wayans? Is he in his 50s yet? He's got to be, right? Yeah, he's 53.
Yeah.
So that catches us up on Peele. Let's see what Mr. Keegan-Michael Key's been up to. The answer is a lot. He never stops working. Whether live action or voice roles, let's just go over the highlights. Parks and Rec, Tomorrowland, if you recall. We covered a Keegan-Michael Key movie not too long ago.
That's right.
Don't Think Twice, Detroiters, Friends from College, Dolomite Is My Name. He's fucking Toad in the Super Mario Brothers movie. He's pretty funny in that too. Schmigadoon, which was a show with Cecily Strong. Wonka, Abbott Elementary, which I've been meaning to catch up on because I've seen clips of Zach Fox and Abbott Elementary just being absolutely unhinged. And I love Zach Fox so much that I got to watch the show now.
Yeah, it's such a highly touted show that I've never checked out.
Transformers 1, which was apparently really good, but lost a ton of money. So we could talk about that one if we ever want to.
Oh, that'll be interesting. I didn't know it existed.
It was trying like an animated reboot of the series to try to be more kid friendly after the Bayification of it all.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I guess the marketing was hit or miss on that one. I'd be interested to check it out though. See about watching it with my son because he's 8. He's probably the right age for that movie.
Yeah, sounds like it.
He most recently appeared in Only Murders in the Building, but he's got some interesting roles coming up that I think will answer our question about how would he fare in some more dramatic stuff, because he's going to be in a Mark Wahlberg and Lakeith Stanfield crime drama called Play Dirty.
Neat.
The Wahlberg of that all, but Lakeith Stanfield's great. Love to see him in something. It's been a while, it feels like. And he's also got a show in development called August Snow, where he will play a detective. Details are kind of scarce, but it does not sound like a comedy. It sounds pretty grim. So I think that
sounds promising.
Could be cool. Yeah, I'll check out anything he does. I think he's super talented. And then let's talk about Tiffany Haddish a little bit. She hadn't quite broken out yet when this movie came out. Like, she's considered pretty A-list these days, but I think she was still finding her footing in the acting world after being a successful comedian for many years. But she followed this up with appearances on Girls Trip and The Carmichael Show, which we mentioned. Right. Also, she did The Kitchen, which we mentioned. She does voice work in The Secret Life of Pets and The Angry Birds movie 2.
Okay.
The Angry Birds movie 2 is very awkward to say. Not also the second Angry Birds movie. She's moved into more dramatic roles lately, though, like on The Count of Three, Here Today, and The Card Counter. She still manages to go back to her comedy roots with performances in Bad Trip and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which I forgot she was in, but she's pretty good.
Yeah,
in that.
I forgot about that too.
She's also the voice of Tuca in the beloved animated show Tuca and Birdie, which was canceled and
neat.
brought back, but then I think canceled again eventually. She reunited with Atencio for the after party. If you recall, she was a main cast member for that one. And she's got no less than 7 projects in production, including Girls Trip 2, Julia Fox crime thriller The Deputy, and an upcoming James Franco comedy called Toad.
Interesting.
James Franco, huh? We're doing all that again, huh?
Yeah.
So we don't have to do the housekeeping. Did you happen to know what we're covering next episode?
No, I have done no preparation or advanced scouting.
Excellent. That's how I like it. We are going to be covering the 1999 crime thriller comedy Tarantino ripoff, Go.
Oh,
You remember Go?
I think I've heard of it, but this is coming out of left field for me. I have no frame of reference for it, so it's great. I love when there's a movie that I've heard the title and have actually nothing to go on, so I get to go into it totally cold.
It's got a decent pedigree. Doug Liman directed it. It's a real movie director.
For sure.
The Bourne Identity, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Edge of Tomorrow, wrote the new Roadhouse. And it was the breakout role for an actor that's pretty important to me, one Timothy Olyphant.
Oh, wow. I didn't know.
So we'll be having some justified crossovers.
You better believe it.
But just look at this cast. William Fichtner, Katie Holmes, Jay Moore, Sarah Polly, Scott Wolf, Tay Diggs, Brecken Meyer, Timothy Olyphant, Desmond Eskew, Jane Krakowski, J.E. Freeman, and Melissa McCarthy.
Big ensemble. Interesting.
J.E. Freeman, our boy from Miller's Crossing.
Oh, okay.
He was Eddie Dane.
Man,
We really liked him.
he certainly knew how to portray evil on screen. I wonder what he's going to do in this one.
I feel like he's going to portray evil, but I don't remember very well. I haven't watched this movie in a long time, but I used to really like it. But I'm remembering some stuff about it now that I'm like, ooh, I wonder if it holds up okay. But will be fun to find out.
Looking forward to the next episode.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time in the Blast Zone.
See you next time in the Blast Zone.
The Blast Zone.